Okay, so disclaimer right out the gate here. This is not the official way to play this song. This is a 6-string, minimal detuning from standard interpretation. So, if you're into that, let's go for it. If not, don't be blowing up my comments. Here we go. Okay, Infinite Source, Deftones, from the new Private Music album. As I mentioned up top, this is a unofficial way of playing this. This is a 6-string, minimal detuning from standard interpretation. Alright, and for this, I'm going to take the low E and drop it down to B. And realistically, if you didn't even want to do that, you don't necessarily have to. It's just for this intro slash second guitar on the bridge riff, where we're hitting that super low B a couple times. You could just stay in standard and then just do like a compounded B power chord there. You wouldn't quite have that low depth to it, but you could have something kind of close. So, if you just want to stay in standard, you can experiment with that too. All the chord names are in here. You could just, find the slight variation of the voicings to use. But this also, the main reason why this interpretation is different is because unless we have the 7-string B and an E as well, so like a 7-string guitar at least, not mentioning like an 8-string, but to get these harmonic riffs in the intro section there and part of the verse, you need those 2 strings, a low B and a low E. So it's kind of tricky to do that unless we wanted to drop the A string down to E as well, and then it gets real confusing. So instead of doing the harmonics, I'm just going to play the actual fretted notes. So it's a little bit of a tone difference, but like I said, this is an interpretive, simplified way of doing this. So with this, we'll just jump right in, hit the open low B a couple times, and you get a little palm mute on that. Alright, and then the substituted harmonic notes here. Instead of being here in like the 4 and 5 harmonic area, we're going to be right here and do 8 on the G a couple times, a couple 9s, then a couple 9s on the B, hit the open low Bs again, do the couple 8s on the G, couple 9s on the G, and then a couple 9s on the high E. Okay, so we're just switching that B string for the E string every other time. All right, and that would just repeat through the intro, and as I mentioned, as a second guitar on the bridge. The verse section, we strum out just a big E major 7, but without the third, so make the E power chord here at the 7A, 9D, and then we want the 8 on the G, and you can do the open B with it. If you hit an open high E, it's fine, but not necessary. Up to you. But with this, we're just strumming it out pretty quick, like that. And then we'll do this other substituted harmonic riff, which is right in the same area, so it's it makes it even nicer. All right, where we're just gonna do a couple nines on the D, and then a couple nines on the B. All right, take that up to the nines on the G for a couple, lift off to get our 8s on the G. All right, and repeat it. And then that verse pattern would just repeat. Alright, so that section out of the way, that's kind of where like the big, alterations from, a 7-string or 8-string would happen. The chorus, we're just going to do this. It looks like a power chord shape in this tuning, but it's actually just octaves. So we'll do the F sharp octave by doing the 7 on the low B and the 9 on the A. Alright, and like I said, a lot of the stuff, if you wanted to just alter it for just a standard tuning, it's not that difficult. So just hitting this, slide it down to the E major 7, which we'll be using the 5 on the low B, the 7A, and then a 6 on the D. And with this, we just strum it out like a good, probably 10, 12 times or so. At that last beat, we'll hit the 7 and 9 again, just to transition to the next spot, which is 9 on the low B, the 11A, and then a 9 on the D there for a flat minor chord. And with this, that's like, about 7 strums or so. And then take it all the way up to the D major 7, so 12 on the B, and 14A, 13 on the D. Alright, and that's about 7-8 times on that one. And then it hits that transitional 7 and 9 again. And then, we would just start it over, slide down to the 5 and 6. Okay. Bridge section switches to a sus2, and with this tuning we could do that with a 10 on the low B, and then you can just kind of mute the A. If you really wanted to be slick, you could do the 12 on the A with that, but that's a little bit of a stretch. So if you want, you can just mute it by just lightly having your finger touching it, and then just do 9s on the D and G. Alright, with this, it's just, you can strum it a bunch, or you can just kind of shuffle through it. And then we just take it to the F sharp sus, which is 7 and 6s, the same shape, just down here. Alright, and just back and forth. Alright, and as I mentioned, like that very first riff from the intro, after we go through this a handful of times, it will come in over the top of this. At the very end of the bridge, we just land on a E, so 5 on the low B, 7 on the A. Right. And other than that, we would, get some parts that repeat. The outro, it's just a real, short back and forth between the 7 and 9 for the F sharp, down to the 5 and 7 for the E, and then slide it down 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 5 and 7, cut it, and just keep repeating that. So hope this was informative, interesting, helpful for, you know, all the six stringers that don't want to do a ton of detuning, you know, don't have the 7 or 8 string, and, you know, don't get hung up on, you know, doing exactly as you know, Stephen Carpenter does it with his wild guitars. So just an option here. Hope you guys like it. Thanks a lot.